Hey friends, welcome back to the Guardian Project podcast, episode 153. I'm your host, Andy, and Mike, I want to know how much it would cost to buy your silence.
To buy my silence? Oh my goodness. I guess it depends on the subject matter now, doesn't it?
I don't know. Money? How much money to buy your silence?
It really depends on the subject. Like, am I lying
I have
about...
a really big secret.
I'd say, well, okay, it's not like a felony or anything like that I have to cover for.
That's your secret. I don't want to tell everyone on the show today.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's fair. And I'm your other host, Mike, and it's finally feeling like summertime here, and where we live, that means a bunch of garage sales and stuff. So you can just call me Oscar because I am a rubbish reclaimer over here.
Ooh, I really don't like garage sales.
Oh,
please listen carefully.
I love them so much. They're like my favorite thing.
It's like flea markets, but outside and it's hot.
Yeah, and I can find magic cards in video games.
Okay, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, right?
And this is the podcast where we talk about all things Magic the Gathering.
But mostly Commander. And first off, very first thing we want to say is thank you to everyone who emailed us this past week. You know, we issued a challenge out to all of you to send us an email, and we got a few responses. So to those of you that emailed us, please, we have already replied to you. You all are going to be reached out to win a prize. So please look for that email and reply to us if you haven't done so already. Thank you.
Yes. So 80% club. So we were looking at some stats, and we do see that 80% of folks that listen to our show listen to the very end. And funny enough, you did that at the very, very end.
Oh,
so
yeah.
thank you for all of you who actually listen to the very end, because sometimes we say really stupid things at the end. So yeah, we're gonna send out some packs to everybody. It is new set time again. It is that time of year that happens too many times a year now, but it's time for a new set. Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate previews are actually beginning this week, and we have a post from both Blogatog and then Gavin from Good Morning Magic has some hints on both the regular set and hints from the Commander set. So let's walk through some of the things that we are going to see in Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. So the first one here is a returning mechanic that feels apropos to D&D makes use of a new card type. Okay. I assume it's dice rolling.
That would be nice. I mean, I really like dice rolling. I wished it was a main mechanic in AFR, and I guess it was, but like a Commander Legends set of AFR, it'd be cool to see dice rolling as a main mechanic.
Was there dice rolling on Zariel? Did any of the planeswalkers care about dice rolling?
No, I don't believe there was. There's only one commander that cares about coin flipping, right? And I can't think of anyone that cares about dice rolling.
Maybe it's that. It says makes use of a new card type. So maybe that mechanic is on a planeswalker.
That would be very cool.
Yeah.
A card capable of making an ox, boar, or goat.
What if this was actually, they just put these three words on it, but it could actually make a changeling?
You can make one creature of literally any creature type. You just have to name it as it comes out.
Yeah. The next one is the word 7 appears on 2 cards and the word 9 appears on 1. Does 7 and 9 mean anything in D&D? I mean, I am new to D&D within the last 5 years. So for me, I don't have the whole... I don't have that knowledge base. Everybody has a 7 and 9 something, or is that just we think it is?
I'm sure there's like a billion campaigns about like the 7 swords or the 7 orbs.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I think I'm just spitting like generically out here. No, I don't think there's any significance to those numbers. Okay. A new legendary colorless artifact token named Volo's Journal.
I know who Volo is.
So we have two of these now, because the Tameo, the completed Tameo, can make an artifact legendary creature journal as well. And it is a token.
Just legendary, it's not creature, right?
Or sorry, not a creature. You're right.
Okay.
And it is a token. It is not an emblem, which I found out when I blew one up with the Beseju the other day. It was pretty awesome.
Wow, that was so mean. We don't destroy books here.
Okay, fair.
The next one is a 10/10 creature with flying and trample that you can cast for green, which I was going to say was Galta at home, but also I think I'd rather play a 10/10 creature with flying and trample for a single green. I could only think of Galta as like a... This costs less for the powers among creatures, or maybe color pips or something, but A 10/10 flying trample for a single green is pretty good.
Well, and it's only missing double strike to be Zatalpa, basically, except Zatalpa has a lot less power. So this is Galzalpta, I think.
Galzalpta.
Yeah. There's a lord for demons, devils, imps, and tieflings. Other than Morophon, of course.
Other than Morophon. Demons, devils, imps, and tieflings.
Which is cool because I had a Devil's deck back in the day with Zerzoth Chaos Rider, but he cared about Devils attacking, but it wasn't a Lord for anything. So it's cool. There's a Lord for it now.
Yeah. The character that got a lot of complaints about not being in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms gets a card. So I don't know a ton of this, like I said, so I'm not sure which one folks most wanted to see, but it sounds like we're going to see them.
Yeah, there was talkings about like 3 or 4 different characters, so I have no idea which one it's going to be. Maybe you'll get all 3 or 4, and they said, we'll do it now so we don't mess it up this time. There's a chance, right? We're going to get a lot of legendary creatures here, so there's definitely a chance. 3 legendary creatures that are gods.
I hope they come back with the god text from the Amonkhet gods.
Oh, so they just come back?
I love the returning gods that just come back to your hand when they die. I think of all the god mechanics, that's my favorite.
Well, the Amonkhet, so that's the Hour of Devastation gods.
The original ones.
But the Amonkhet gods were indestructible.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The Locust God, the Scarab God, and the Scorpion God. I like those gods. Yeah. I like that god mechanic.
Yeah, the tucking one from War of the Spark was okay too, I thought.
That was pretty good too.
Not as good, obviously, as going to your hand, though.
I think my least favorite is the Call type gods because they don't have.
Well, that's true.
They're god creature types.
They're so vulnerable, like the Olympian gods. How mortals were killing them sometimes and stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, you're not really a god, are you?
Oh, sick burn. We have a card that enhances all creatures with mana abilities. So a lord for dorks, Dork Lord.
That would be cool if it was actually a lord. Because I was thinking of Kinnan Bonder Prodigy, can produce extra mana.
Yeah, taps for like more.
Yeah. But I hope that it's actually like a buff to them because that'd be cool. Or get all your dorks get exalted or something like that would be cool.
Oh, all right.
A spell that can copy something X times.
I like cards like this. You can copy it X times, if you jumped through some hoop, or I guess kicked it 5 times. I don't know.
Do you think this will be copying something on the stack, or do you think this is like making X tokens of something? Which I guess could be on the stack too.
I'd be happy with either. I'll be honest. I'll be happy with either. Maybe this is a reprint. Who knows?
Oh, okay.
Copy something. No, we don't have something like that, do we?
I don't think so.
I don't think we do. No, that sounds new. Next are some rules text that will be showing up on cards. The first is this spell costs 1 less to cast for each opponent you're attacking. I appreciate things like this. It keeps the game moving. It's very commander centric and focused. So I do kind of appreciate this, even though it's not from the commander decks. It's a commander set. So
that's
it's
right.
Really on brand.
Yeah. And it's instant speed combat trick. Love some combat tricks. That artifact becomes a 0/0 homunculus artifact creature with flying. I assume that there is pretext to this that you get to put X amount of +1/+1 counters on something, and this is actually a positive rather than some sort of kill spell for an artifact to just make it a 0/0 and it dies. So
yeah, there's probably put a counter on it or something.
Yeah,
that's cool. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own.
Oh, I like that. Steal some spells. If you control neither creature, draw 3 cards.
I thought about this one for way too long earlier today. I couldn't think of a single thing that would make me choose 2 creatures, and then if I control neither creature, draw 3. And maybe it's like 2 creatures get +5/+5 trample and indestructible until your next turn. And if you control neither creature, draw 3 cards.
I was thinking didn't we have like wrong direction in the original Commander Legends that like flipped the ownership of 2 creatures or something? So maybe flip the ownership of 2 creatures, and if you didn't own either of them, then you get to draw 3 cards. I think that's wrong turn. Yeah,
maybe wrong turn. I could see that. Draw 3 cards. What color do we think this is?
Blue.
Okay,
it's blue.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't lose the game for having 0 or less life.
Is it on a creature? Is it on an enchantment or an instant?
This is going to be another Lich, I think, and it's going to be on a creature.
All right. Tokens you control have tap : I would love to see like a Cryptolith reprint or something similar. To add mana.
Well, what if it's tap to ping or something like that? A little bit of
That'd
damage.
That'd be cool. Tokens all have tap to deal 1 damage to any permanent.
Yeah, either way,
any target.
Either way, you want this to fit in your Lannis colors, I imagine, for all those clues.
Lannis, or I think I'd be okay putting this in the Locust gun.
Oh, there you go.
If it could fit into red and blue.
We have then choose a third player.
It's a modal spell, and you can choose one for no.
Well, there's like maybe a creature like Vindictive Lich, where like when it dies, you have 3 modes, and each one can target a different player, and none of them can target the same player. And one's like sack a creature, discard a card, and they lose life or something like that. So maybe something like that there.
Maybe. Where X is the total mana value of dragons you control. So this one is going to be 20 mana, and you're going to tutor for X number of dragons, where X is the total mana value of dragons you control, and each opponent's going to pick one, and you just put them on the battlefield.
That's crazy. That's a whole lot of. I was thinking of something a lot more simple, like a fireball like effect or something.
I like mine more.
I like yours more too. I think yours
so
is
if I've
crazy.
got like 20 mana of dragons, I'm searching for 20 dragons. Each opponent is putting one onto the battlefield, but then you have to exile them. So you have to it doesn't say less. Maybe you can't cast it if you don't have that many dragons left in your deck. I don't know. That's what I want it to be.
Okay, fair. Hey, it's very exciting. How about put a number of time counters on it equal to its mana value? Is that exciting for you?
Is time like suspend?
Yes. So suspending something puts time counters on it.
Yeah, then it has to, I mean, it sounds very exile or counter target spell, and then you're putting time counters on it.
Yeah, which is the spell suspend. Yeah.
I mean, I can get behind it. And then you may cast your commander from the command zone without paying its mana cost. And this is probably stapled onto. Is this on a land that's going to end up being $150?
I'm not sure. I imagine it's on a high.
What is this on? Is this on a high costed spell?
I think it's on a high cost sorcery. I think.
Or it could be on something that's easy, but you have to jump through a bunch of hoops. Like if you have this, if you have this, if you have this, you may cast your commander from the command zone without paying its mana cost.
Oh, so you think so this isn't just like a second half of the spell. The whole spell is about casting your commander for free.
I kind of think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my thought. I don't think this is like tacked on as a benefit.
Oh, I think it is. I think it's like destroy all creatures on the battlefield. If your commander is destroyed this way, you may cast your commander from the command zone for free or something
Maybe.
like that.
So we also have flavor words in this set again. The first one is Devour Intellect.
We have Homunculus Servant.
Bigby's Hand.
Gathered Swarm.
Avoidance.
Vicious Mockery. Gotta love it.
I understand that one. Blood Drain.
Mantle of Inspiration.
Animate Chains.
And Death Ray.
That one I also know. And finally, we are getting a bunch of legendary creatures with some unique creature type lines. The first is Halfling Knight.
And a Tiefling Barbarian.
A Gith Warrior.
A Dragon Peasant.
A Vampire Elf Rogue.
A Bear Warrior.
A Devil Noble.
A Human Boar.
A Cat Devil.
And an Elephant Angel.
So sweet. And these are all legendary creatures.
Yes.
So we're going to see a lot in this set. I know we'll be drafting it a bunch probably, as long as we can see all of our friends. Because we are back in at least Michigan is back as an extremely high risk. At least our county that we live in is considered a very high risk area right now. So please wear your masks. Be safe, everyone. Now we also have 10 hints from the Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate decks. So these are for the Commander decks. The first hint here is a card that grants protection from creatures.
Yes, the second is a creature with the types Crab, Ooze, Horror.
The next is an enchantment that can, If you build your deck properly, give all your creatures Undying.
I really need this for my Henzi toolbox deck. If
very cool.
if the way you build the deck around it isn't too limiting, I'm not sure. The fourth one we have here is the green member of a cycle we saw started in a previous Commander product.
A card with a replicate cost that is not mana.
Nice. A card that has an ability which begins whenever a goaded, attacking, or blocking creature dies, ...
Draw a card. Hint 7, a card we didn't do in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms that Gavin had been asking for repeatedly. And no, it is not a legend.
Yeah, so this is different than the one that Mara was talking about, because I believe Mara was talking about a legendary creature that was going in the core set. When I say core set, I mean the draftable set and not the commander decks here.
Not the commander decks, yes. So Mark Rosewater was, he was talking about that set, not this one.
Right.
Not the commander decks.
So we also have a creature with 5 creature types. That's a lot of text.
It is, and I'm wondering if it's related to like old cards from the party mechanic that have like, this counts as an elf, a warrior, a rogue, but I feel like 5 creature types is going to be in the creature type line, so maybe it's not.
Oh, okay.
The next is a card that has an ability which begins whenever a non-land permanent an opponent owns enters the battlefield under your control.
Nice.
That's cool.
Stealing stuff.
Yeah.
And the last hint we have here for the commander decks, and these are, again, only about the new cards that are being printed in these commander decks, 10 new cards per deck. Hint number 10 here, a card named Delayed Blast Fireball was appropriately enough not in our first D&D Magic set, but you'll find it in these commander decks.
Yeah. Now tell us about Universes Beyond Warhammer 40K, because we are getting our first look at that as well.
Oh my gosh, Andy, I am so freaking excited about Warhammer 40,000 Commander.
I looked at all of this stuff and I went, wow, I don't know what any of this means, but I'm excited to learn.
As our group chat explodes with 400 messages between 2 people and the 5 people that are in the chat who actually know what's going on. Yes, we are getting a collaboration between Wizards of the Coast and Warhammer 40,000 to get a Magic the Gathering Commander set featuring Warhammer 40,000 characters, armies, and the whole entire universe. This is getting released on August 12th. It is less than 3 months away when we are going to have this Commander product in our hand that features 4 different decks, again featuring 4 different factions within the Warhammer 40,000 universe. We have the Tyranid Swarm featuring the Tyranid host, I guess. They're very like generic aliens. Like their weapons and stuff are bioweapons that are growths off of their own bodies and stuff. And they have
sounds very Simic to me.
Oh, it's Teamer though. They are natural though.
Oh, okay, all right.
So you're close. This is actually the only deck, funnily enough, that does not include the color black, which is pretty cool. So the second deck we have on here is Forces of the Imperium. This would be typically the people that would be defending the Earth and the Earth's whatever the Earth owns. You know, in this universe, the Earth owns Mars and the Moon and a few different planets, a few different galaxies.
Okay.
So that they would be like the protectors and the humans. They're not necessarily the good guys. They're kind of like the self-governed. They implemented themselves as police of the universe, even though no one asked them to.
All right. This is questionable. Forces of the Imperium.
That's right. So those ones are in the Esper colors, so black, blue, and white. Then we have Necron Dynasties, which coincidentally enough was the first army that I ever made for Warhammer 40,000 and is the only army here represented in mono black. So
is this the one you were most excited for? I know there were a couple when we speculated when we first heard about this. Were any of these on that list? Was this one there? Necrons?
Necrons were definitely on the list. Tyranids were on the list. Chaos was on the list, which is the 4th deck. We'll talk about the Ruinous Powers one.
Okay.
And I was concerned about how they were going to do Space Marines. So I was actually very happy to see Forces of the Imperium, because only one section of that is Space Marines. This will include all humans, whether they're wearing power armor or Terminator armor or no armor at all, and they just have a gun or something like that. So it'll include everyone. I really like the way that they did that. They did the same thing over on the Chaos side in the Ruinous Powers deck. The only deck that we actually have the face commander for of Abaddon the Despoiler, which if you're familiar with the Warhammer 40,000 universe, Andy, I Know You're Not. Abaddon the Despoiler is one of the main leaders of the Chaos Army. He's not necessarily tied to any particular faction of Chaos. There are 4 gods in the Chaos faction. We actually got a card that represents one of those gods as well that's going to be printed within the Abaddon the Despoiler deck, and that is Blood for the Blood God. This represents the god Khorne, Khorne. He really only cares about death and blood and everything. So Blood for the Blood God with the flavor text Skulls for the Skull Throne. That is actually the phrase for the Khorne followers and everything. He doesn't care where the blood comes from. He doesn't care where the skulls come from. He just wants more blood, bigger throne.
Corn mazes.
You like corn mazes?
He's got to have mazes. There's got to be maze cards, right? In the deck that's featuring this. There's got to be a maze.
So although there are no mazes of corn, the Khorne army does actually have minotaurs in it, which you would find in the middle of a maze, typically a hedge maze, not a corn maze. But we also got a couple other cards that they Wizards of the Coast announced for us. Vanguard Suppressor, which as we know has another form of kicker on it. It's a 4-mana Astarius Warrior 3/2 with Squad 2, and Squad 2 means you could pay 2 generic mana any number of times, so it's multi-kicker 2. And then anytime you pay that Squad 2 value, you get a token of the creature. It's got flying, and when it enters or when it deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. There was also some announcements about some secret layers they're going to release alongside the commander deck. So we're going to have secret layer Warhammer 40,000 orcs. So that's an army that we are not seeing come into the pre-cons, which I know a lot of people were looking forward to. So we're still going to see some orc stuff, which is cool. Secret layer with Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So if you're not familiar, there's actually 2 games of Warhammer 40,000 set in the future, and Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is more of a fantasy. They're not
all the same?
They're not. So it's more of
my gosh.
It's more of a fantasy universe, and actually Age of Sigmar, everything occurs on one planet, where in Warhammer 40,000, everything occurs in the entire universe. And technically they happen at the same time. There are chaos demons within Age of Sigmar, so they exist within the same universe, and that's the proof that they exist within the same universe. But other than that, there's no crossover. Wild. And then Secret Lair with Blood Bowl, which is another form of Warhammer where they play football. So that one should also be very fun to see. Very much looking forward to this. You could tell I'm very excited about this, Andy. I hope you can share with the excitement when we get there.
I will learn more as this comes out. Previews begin for all of this stuff in July. The worldwide release is happening August 12th. So we will obviously be discussing this more in the future. And before we continue, we want to thank all of you who are listening. Thank you so much for hanging with us every single week, and especially to our patrons. We really do appreciate your support. You help allow us to, send out these really fun prizes and, continue to stream and make all of our fun content here. And if you want to support us, you can head to patreon.com/guardianprojectpod and donate for any dollar amount.
And if you want to support us in any other way or in an additional way, whatever platform you are enjoying the podcast on now, if you could subscribe, rate, review, and leave comments, we would be most appreciative.
We're online. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. You can just search us, the Guardian Project Podcast, and, we'll be there. And you can email us at guardianprojectpod@gmail.com. And, if you have a topic you want us to discuss, you can send it along, because we did get some topics in our emails from last week. Mm-hmm. But we're not discussing one of those today. We are going to be discussing something else. Mike, what are we chatting about today?
So there is a new trend that is making waves in the Magic universe, especially on Twitter. And so we're going to talk about what it takes to go sleeveless. We're going to talk about sleeveless decks. And Andy and I might have delved into this and built our own sleeveless deck. So we're going to talk about our own decks here as well.
It's time to roll our sleeves up. So the funny thing is, I don't even know if it's really a major trend. I just think it was really interesting to see something going around online. Previously, there have been discussions about this. I've seen other content creators want to talk about this too. And so is it cool? I don't know, but I didn't get to do this, play without sleeves when I was younger. So we said, let's go ahead and make some decks without sleeves. And in order to do that, we had to ask ourselves lots of questions like, what's the price going to be? And, what type of commander we play? What's the pros? What's the cons? What's the, what's it all about? Right. So we wanted to try it, but I think, talking about why we can do it, you can bridge shuffle your cards like you do when you play euchre, the most Midwestern card game I can think of. If you don't know what euchre is, I would tell you it's like Pinochle with less cards, but you might not know what Pinochle is either.
That's right. Now, to be fair, you might riffle shuffle in any other card game you play with a deck of playing cards as well. So whatever card games you're enjoying, Sleeveless, and you do a ripple shuffle, that's what we're talking about.
But can you bridge shuffle? That's a requirement. I can bridge shuffle. I don't know if I can bridge shuffle 100 cards. I will say I did practice it. It didn't go so well with 100. It didn't, because it's almost double, 52 cards versus 100. So I'm going to have practice.
We'll have to have another episode of a would you rather ripple shuffle a sleeveless deck or try to shuffle a triple sleeved brand new just sleeved it up commander deck.
Yeah, I'm not gonna shuffle a triple sleeve deck. My hands, I can hold a double sleeved deck, but triple sleeved, this is unnecessary. Yeah. It'll be as thick as those gilded foil cards. I'm kidding. But they do feel a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
I also really like to get cards signed by artists, and it'll be really fun to have friends sign cards. And I was thinking, when we make these decks, if you take somebody out with a card, or maybe a creature or a spell, whatever it is, you can have that person sign your card. And I was told that I could just take the card out of a sleeve and have somebody sign it, and that's just true. But where's the fun in that?
Well, no. See, I double sleeve. So now you're asking me to do 2 steps and then continue that process, those 2 steps in the opposite order immediately after this action is done. And that's just way too much work for me.
It's just a lot of work. But I think we were really intrigued when we saw DJ Johnson's sleeveless Gonti Lord of Luxury deck that got a lot of love after being riffle and bridge shuffled at MTG Vegas last year. And we can actually post a link to the Twitter post in the show notes below, at Rose of Thorns on Twitter. But it just seemed really fun. And so we said, let's do it. You can have one deck that you can put your cards that are already potentially heavily played, or just have a deck that's more accessible. You don't have to always have it inside of some box. You can just bring it with you. So we're going to chat about that. Now, to do that though, why don't you tell us about our budget, Mike?
Yeah. So I think we approach this in two a little bit different ways, because I know you did yours based on cards that you just had sitting around, which is to the point of DJ and how he made his deck as well. Cards that you already own, cards that are sitting around, but also cards that you could look at and go, yeah, I'm fine with playing that sleeveless. You weren't looking at your Mox Diamond or anything going, no. Oh yeah, a sleeveless Mox Diamond, that seems fun.
No, so definitely not.
So I built all of mine digitally first, and then I just went through my collection and got everything and started replacing cards here and there for cards that I didn't have, looking for other ones, and I still don't have another triplicate Titan that I really, really would like for my deck, so I need to go find one of those. But other than that,
I kept it to cards I owned. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't say it had to be cheap, but if I had to purchase anything, it would probably be like a heavily played card or a card that was like affordable. I am not made of money.
Sure.
I'm not about destroying cards. That's not the point of this either. It wasn't to look, I'm destroying magic. That's not the point of this. It just seemed like fun. It's also, I feel like, a conversation starter. It's like everybody sits down to play at your LGS and you pull out an unsleeved deck and everybody just looks at you. Yeah, I think that's a pro, right? So let's talk about some other pros, which I think my biggest pro here is that it does not need any of my very limited quantity of mist sleeves.
Yes, that's very true. It is the most budget decks you can make because you don't even need to buy sleeves for it.
No sleeves, and depending on the commander you make, you don't need any additional supplies with you other than the cards. I mean, obviously you have to check it, but you can absolutely make it so you don't need dice, you don't need counters, you don't need anything, depending on what commander you build.
Yeah, I'm like the typical nerd that walks around with a pocket of pens and markers in my pocket, like, because there's going to be some case where a silver Sharpie is really going to be needed for me in my life. So a lot of times I have that with me. So if you're like me and you might have a dry erase marker on you at all times, you can just bring some dry erase tokens with you along with your deck in case it is a tokens deck.
Are you also a person who has change in their pocket?
No, change is in my car. I don't need change in my pocket. I don't pay
I don't
cash
need
for
change in my
anything.
I don't use cash. I use my card or I pay from an app. I don't ever have cash on me. So if someone ever tried to rob me and said, give me all your cash, I would not be lying by saying I have no cash.
Yeah. Don't tell them about your magic cards though.
Well, they wouldn't be in my pocket probably or with me. But I do not ever have silver Sharpies in my pocket.
Oh, so there you go.
I won't have any supplies conveniently with me.
But now we did talk about how we don't need sleeves for this. You also technically don't need a deck box for this type of deck either. A simple
just rubber band it.
Just simple rubber band. Just rubber band it together. And put how people used to get like a crease in their pocket for having their wallet there for too long, or a crease in like rolled up in their sleeve if they had like a carton of cigarettes in there or something. You're going to have the same thing, but it's going to be because of your magic deck that you're constantly carrying around in your pocket. You're going to have worse posture.
I have never had my pockets wear in my pants for my cell phone or for my wallet.
You never?
By the way,
none.
I've retired wallet. Never. I've never had that happen. They either rip from just general wear over time, but I've never had that happen. But I also retired a wallet. I don't sit on a wallet. I have a cell phone that includes just 3 cards. So I only ever have like my ID, a credit card, and a debit card with me. So, I looked at my wallet one day and I said, if I need to go to the library, I'll just grab my library card before I go. I need to always have this with me.
I started putting my wallet in my front pocket when people were like, dude, seriously, your spine's going to get messed up. Because I had a fat wallet to the point, like I literally could put a wallet in my right back pocket and a commander deck in my left back pocket, and I would probably sit pretty even.
One day we'll do a stream and we open the contents of your wallet and determine 90% of it doesn't need to be with you at all times.
Yeah, but for me it does. So I mean,
okay, yeah. All right. It's sentimental. It's sentimental to you. Unforeseen drawbacks though. When we started making these decks, we quickly realized we could not use double-faced cards.
Ugh.
And I was so sad.
Normally I wouldn't
play them in every single
yes,
deck.
You do.
Every single deck I have has at least one modal double-faced card from Zendikar Rising that's a land on the backside. Those are my favorite cards from the past since I've played Magic. And I couldn't put it in here.
Yeah,
I was so sad.
I literally just stuck those in the first deck I've ever played them in the other day in Rafine. It's the first deck I've played MDFCs in. Ever. Yeah,
I've run out of Balaged recoveries on 4 separate occasions.
That makes sense. It's a good card.
I keep buying them, and I like I like them all. Okay, I like them all. I like them all.
So I
couldn't run them.
And I ran into the same thing. I only had one card I was looking at, but it was like a super budget card that I really wanted to add. It's a mythic from Crimson Vow called Jacob Hauken Inspector. It's like a 2-mana guy that can draw cards and discard cards, and then you pay 6 mana and turn him into a thing that casts things for free. And it would have been cool. You technically could still play these in your sleeveless deck. You would just have to use the replacement cards that they don't have the checklist cards anymore, but they have like the write in your own cards there.
Yeah, the marker cards or some.
So you could do that, but
you just have to bring the extra cards with you, which I guess you could absolutely do.
So rubber band it up. Maybe that card can be the card that everyone signs because it's got 2 faces to sign on it, and you don't actually need to play it in your 99.
Oh, I mean that's true. See, I think I wanted to sign when a card did something like important or like took somebody out or I don't know. And then we thought, well, what about marked cards? And honestly, you're probably going to get quite a few dings on these cards. But honestly, who cares? We're making these for fun. We're not really doing anything too expensive as far as the deck goes, like cost wise for the cards. Obviously, budget is relative. So for us, we kept these on a budget side for what we would consider budget, with maybe a few exceptions. Maybe I think when we get to the decks, I think I have 4 cards that are I questioned whether or not I needed them. I thought they were important enough that I added them, but the rest of them were all either already beat up or cards that I had, and it was like, I'm not going to be putting this in another deck like right now, so I who cares?
Sure. Yeah, I have very, very similar mindset. I think there was one card in particular I was looking at when building my deck and I went, this is probably a little bit too expensive, but again, important for what the deck wants to do. Too important and not too expensive where I'm going to lose any sleep over playing with it. So
yeah. If it like really does get ruined or, someone spills a drink or something, like I'm not going to be upset.
No, it gives it more flavor, literally, if someone spills a drink on it.
What drink would you most want spilled on your Sleeveless Commander deck?
Okay, none. I really would like none.
If I'm being honest. But one is being spilled. What is it?
Oh, something without sugar. That's gonna make it all sticky.
Oh, okay. So just water.
Anything with that. Even what if it's like Propel? Does Propel have sugar? It might have a little bit of sugar on it. Yeah, but basically water, flavored water. Yeah, something like that. You could do
like bubbly or something because they tell you they put some sweetener and sugar in it, but you don't taste anything.
So this is, and it's like you said. Although we're playing with Sleeveless and we're playing with cards we might not really care about, our intention is not to damage Magic cards.
We're going to take care of them.
Yeah.
So what did we build? Let's chat real quick about what we built. We're going to talk about maybe the price of the deck and just the overall strategy. And so I'm really, really excited to hear about yours. Because it was a commander that until you told me what it did, it was a one that we had completely overlooked. So Mike, what did you build?
All right. So you know me, got to build a deck with black. We paired it up with blue. We're building a brand new commander from the Obscura Commander Precon, and that is Oscar Rubbish Reclaimer. So for 5 mana, 3 a blue and a black, you get a human wizard 3/3 that says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each different mana value among cards in your graveyard. Whenever you discard a non-land card, you may cast it from your graveyard. Now, I have not seen rulings come out for any of the Commander Precon cards yet on any official streams like Scryfall or Gatherer or anything like that. But if my interpretation of this card is correct, since it says whenever you discard a non-land card, you may cast it from your graveyard, and not you may cast it from your graveyard until end of turn. This should be ignoring timing restrictions. So this is my Dimir cast non-instance at instant speed deck. And it's like I said, this is the Sleeveless deck. It actually was sitting at 99 cards up until about 2 hours ago, and then I added 2 cards. So now we're at 101 cards, and we have to cut something. But there is some pretty cool tech in here. I have 2 alternate win conditions that I'm trying to do with the deck. One of them is the most expensive card in my deck, and that is the enchantment called Mortal Kombat. And this is not a video game franchise or a movie series. This one's spelled with a C, combat, not a K, combat. So Mortal Kombat is for 2 black and a black. You get an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, if 20 or more creature cards are in your graveyard, you win the game. So the whole intention of the deck is to be discarding cards. I play 27 creatures in the deck, so it is a majority of my creatures that would have to be in the graveyard for Mortal Kombat to win. But the fact that I can discard this on someone's turn right before mine and then cast it at instant speed with Oscar and then quickly go to my upkeep makes this a pretty nice win condition. Triskaidekaphile is my other alternate win condition. This one was printed in the most recent Innistrad sets. So for 1 and a blue, you get a human wizard that says you have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. And you can pay 3 and a blue to draw a card. I don't have a ton of card draw spells in here, like straight up card draw spells. But I have I have 10 different instances of instant speed discard in the deck, with things like Oblivion Crown, which is a 1 and a black, an aura with flash. It says enchanted creature has discard a card. This creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So 10 different instances of that on creatures and enchantments, artifacts. And that's going to allow me to always have one of those out. It's the same kind of rule of when I make like an Aristocrats deck or a Reanimator deck to have 10 sacrifice outlets in the deck. So I have 10 discard outlets here. The couple of cards that I added today, I thought in particular would be cool. I wasn't really building around Oscar's ability to reduce his own mana cost. So if you have different mana values in your graveyard, it reduces the generic mana of his mana cost.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I thought if for some reason, my graveyard is going to be filling up with cards anyways, because I'm going to be discarding them, maybe there's going to be an instance where there's a lot of board wipes, a lot of removal. Typically in budget decks, you are talking about more interaction and less combo-y stuff going on. So more interaction means maybe I have to cast Oscar more times. So I decided to put in Echo Storm and Skull Storm into this deck. So Echo Storm, a 5-mana sorcery. It says whenever you cast the spell, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. You may choose new targets for the copy. You create a token that's a copy of target artifact. I don't have many artifacts in my own deck that I want to copy, so this is going to be very dependent upon what my opponents have. I only run 3 artifacts: Commander Sphere, Mind Stone, and Nevin Neural's Disc, which is also my only board wipe, so I like that one a lot. And Skull Storm, which does cost a lot. It's 9 mana in total, 7 black. Says whenever you cast this spell, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, and each opponent that can't loses half of their life rounded up. So hopefully you'll get to repeat that 3 or 4 times. We do run a bunch of effects like Fleshbag Marauder that's going to force my opponents to sacrifice their creatures. So there will be an instance where hopefully my opponents don't have any creatures on the battlefield. I can resolve a Skull Storm late in the game after I've cast my commander 3 or 4 times and really try to close out the game there. And I know that's just a touch of it. I'm going to be playing this on stream soon, I'm guessing, so look out for it there. But Andy, let's talk about your Exava upgraded deck, because you've had this deck in the past, and now that we've been to oh my gosh,
we went back to Ravnica, we've been to Kamigawa, we've been all over, and the best part is that I feel like Exava is so much better now that we've been to Kamigawa than cards that were originally built to work with Exava. So
yeah,
and it's funny because this is like a very budget deck. I think the only difference from what I had before to what I have now is that I didn't want to use all my most expensive black-red lands, so I'm not running my Shockland. Mm-hmm. But I will say I didn't mind putting a few in. I mean, Tainted Peak is at like 32 cents now. So like the mana base, I mean, Command Tower's like 16 cents now if you get it from like Commander Legends. So like these cards are affordable. They used to be like $3-4. I think my most expensive one is Canyon Slough from Amonkhet that has cycling, and it's just because I have a bunch and I don't build black-red a lot, so I said I'll do this. But Exava Rakdos Blood Witch is a 3/3 human cleric for 2 black and a red. She has First Strike, Haste, and Unleash, a mechanic that will probably never come back. It says you may have this creature enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. It cannot block as long as it has a counter on it, a +1/+1 counter on it. So I guess it could have another counter and still block. But then Exava says each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has haste. And I just tried for a long time. I tried to make this deck so long ago. I lived in an apartment before I moved to a townhouse, before I bought my house, which the house was bought 4 years ago. So Exava was like at least 7 years ago at this point, which seems crazy. Like, it just seems crazy. And so anyway, what I tried to do before was just put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on creatures and swing. But the problem was like Exava doesn't come down until 4. And then the creatures that I was just trying to make swing weren't really doing anything, and the +1/+1 counter synergy is not really a Rakdos thing. You don't initially, you think Selesnya can get counters, and Simic really deals with counters, and it's not black-red. And so anyway, when we went to Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, when we went back, we got a new mechanic called Modified that cares about creatures that are equipped, enchanted with an aura, or have counters, any kind of counter on them. And I realized there's like 7 or 8 black and red cards from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty that work. I guess maybe not black, but red and colorless. So we got cards like Towashi Guidebot, which is a 2/1 for 4 colorless, and you can tap it to draw a card, and it costs you pay 4 and tap it to draw a card, and that ability costs 1 less for each modified creature you control. And when it enters, you put a counter on a creature you control. So if you already have your commander out and you play Towashi Guidebot, you can put the counter on itself, which then gives it haste, because any creature with a +1/+1 counter on it has haste. And if you have 4 creatures that are modified. You have a creature that says tap, draw a card in Rakdos.
That's really strong.
Cool.
That's very
it's
strong.
so strong. But I played the deck a few times now. I think the best card in the deck, like not just win con wise, but like creature wise, is Kami of Celebration. So it's a 3/3 spirit for 4 and a red, and it says whenever a modified creature you control attacks, exile a top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. And then it says, whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So sure, Prosper is probably happy to see things like this. But if I swing with 3 creatures that have +1/+1 counters on them, I exile the top 3 cards of my library. I can play them, so I can in fact play a land. That's not considered casting, but then if I cast something, I can put an additional +1/+1 counter on creatures I control, which seems really, really good, and it has given me the card advantage that the deck was missing previously. You played a game against me with this, Goro, Disciple of Ryusei. So it's that goblin that I said I really love, and I haven't seen it a ton, but it did work for me. It's 2 mana. You can pay 1 red. Creatures you control gain haste, which, I mean, that's cool because that's considered... that's not considered modified. But you can pay 3 red, and you can create a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying if you're attacking with a modified creature. And all of mine are pretty much modified. So I got a lot of really cool cards. My main win condition here is just swinging. I don't have any sort of a combo here, but I would like to play the card Insurrection. So Insurrection is 5 red, untap all creatures. They gain, or you gain control of them, and they gain haste until end of turn. So I'm going to take all your creatures and then swing all of them at the person who probably has the most creatures that I can't deal with in the future. But I got to, there's even cards like Nakara Lair Scavenger that came out in the Ikoria Commander set. And it says whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had a counter on it, you draw a card and lose a life. And then also Blood Tracker, which is a vampire that had, I believe, initially come out with the Commander 18 cards, and I don't remember who the face commander is here, but Blood Tracker is a 2/2 vampire wizard with flying for 4 mana, but you can pay a black and 2 life and put a counter on it, +1/+1 counter, and then when it leaves the battlefield, not dies, just leaves anyway, you draw a card for each +1/+1 counter that it had on it. So if I continue to just put all my counters on Blood Tracker, when it ultimately gets removed or dies, I could potentially just refill my hand.
Man, I did not know they printed Toothy in mono black, but here it is. Blood
They
Tracker.
printed Toothy in mono black.
And gave it flying.
And another card that I was really excited to throw in here, because I know that my problem before with Exava was that I always either didn't get my lands or I got the wrong color lands. And a new card that works super duper well in this deck is Ecologists Terrarium. Again, thank you, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. 2 colorless mana. It's an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it into your hand. So that's cool. I can get the color I need. But then it also has pay 2 and tap it and sack it, and I can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature at sorcery speed. So play out a creature. If I played the Terrarium on 2 to get a land, I play a creature later in the game. If I have 2 extra mana, I essentially pay 2, give it a counter, and then it has haste if I have my commander out. So I'm really excited to continue playing with this deck. I have played 4 games now, and I almost won one of them. I was 1 turn away. I couldn't get there. It was like, oh, crap, I can't block enough. And Exava couldn't block because Unleash.
Yes.
So when we looked at the price of our decks, mine came to $90.
Okay. So that's $90. Like what price are you looking at when you say that?
So this would be, I use Moxfield. This would be TCG player pricing. And it's $90. $91.67 is what it comes to here total. And
that's minus basic lands as well?
No, that includes everything.
Including basic lands. Okay.
Including my basics.
Okay, so mine is $27.66 for my Oscar deck, including basic lands.
Sure.
So very low costs, but again, with like a $5 enchantment in there in Mortal Kombat. But what my deck doesn't have that your deck does is an homage to the original Sleeveless deck that we've mentioned a few times in the past, and that's Ashling the Pilgrim with 99 mountains. It's kind of cheating when we talk about a Sleeveless deck that way, because you only have 99 mountains that are unsleeved. But I'm glad you do have Ashling the Pilgrim in your list. Minus the 99 mountains. I guess minus the, how many mountains do you play in here? 11
I'm playing
of them.
11.
So 88 mountains short of an Ashling the Pilgrim unsleeved deck. But
I am. And that deck would cost you $3.08 if you do not include the cost of your basics. So Ashling the Pilgrim is very, very good. I know that we had to have talked about this over the last 3 years since we were doing the show. But it's a 1/1 for 2, just 1 in a red. You can pay 1 in a red, put a counter on Ashling. And if you did this 3 times in a single turn, you remove every counter from Ashling, and it deals that much damage to each creature and each player. So it can be a win condition on its own, but it just works with my +1/+1 counter strategy. So Mortal Kombat is the most expensive card in your deck?
Yes, at $5.23 according to TCG Player. What is yours? Do you know?
Mine is Insurrection, which I did not know. Mine's already really beat up because we've had this card. My household has had this card since before I started playing Magic, so it has been a long, long time. But the card is $12.92. I did not know Insurrection was a pricey card, but I do have a few $5 cards. I had a Yaheni Undying Partisan, $5.80. It's board wipe, I guess, kind of prevention for me. At least I get to keep one of my things. If I sack creatures, I can put a counter on Yaheni, and then if I sack another creature, or whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, I put a counter on Yaheni, and I can sack another creature to give Yaheni indestructible, so that works. Bantu's Monument, did not know it was more expensive than Bolas's Citadel now. Bantu's Monument is an artifact for 3 mana. It says black creatures cost 1 colorless less, and whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses life and you gain a life. So if I guess I can play out all my black creatures, I could do some work there. And then the only other card that I have that's over $5 is Bedlam. So 2 red for an enchantment that says creatures can't block.
Yeah. That's great. Now, important note with Bantu's Monument, it is only reducing the cost of black creatures, but any creature you cast is going to have that drain ability.
Correct. Yeah. It's great.
It's really,
and I am running 28 creatures here. So actually, funny enough, you and I believe, are running the exact same number of creatures.
Yeah.
In our decks, and I don't have Mortal Kombat, but that seems pretty cool. Now, did you have any cards you did not add that you really wanted to, just because you're like, this is just going to be, this is too expensive?
Oh, like every single card I looked at was too expensive to add to my Dimir deck that I want. I mean, like, obviously there's some really high-powered cards that I want to do. I wanted to put Wheels in there, but even Windfall was looking at like $4 or $5 for that, and that's not a main strategy of the deck. I'm not really looking to discard my entire hand all at once. It was just going to be, hey, if I had 20 cards in my hand at some point, a Windfall would be pretty great for the whole board if everyone drew a brand new 20. But again, a little bit too expensive to put it in. I'm sure there were other cards. I guess I was more surprised at some of the cards that I found for cheap than I did were expensive, like cards like Dig Through Time. You can pick up for like 50 cents right now. Shadow of the Grave, which was really big, when people were talking about discard decks. Shadow of the Grave is a 2-mana instant. It says return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you exiled or discarded this turn. It was really big when Anji Falconwrath first came out, the Anji Commander Precon Face Commander. I think Shadow of the Grave works really well with a lot of the Obscura decks that came out now, so I'm kind of surprised to see it a little bit low. Tendrils of Agony, I always thought was a little bit of a more expensive card. It's a 4-mana sorcery with Storm, 2 black, target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life with Storm. So I guess that would be more, I was more surprised at how cheap some cards were than I was at how expensive some cards were, but I'm sure I came across stuff that I wanted to add.
The only card that I have, and it's so funny because Exava is not like a mainstay. No one really knows what Exava is. And when I played with some folks the other day, it was like, I'm sorry, we want you to win because what is this commander, right? It was one of those like, we hope you do really well. And I think the only card that I would personally consider and it just works so well in the deck that it would be like, oh, I think Exava, I think X. And it like the Ozolith is so good.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Zava. So it's a 1 mana legendary artifact. It's colorless, and it just says whenever a creature leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put them on the Ozolith, and then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith had any counters on it, you may move all of them onto a creature. So if you have Exava and you had maybe a board wipe previously and you play out a better creature, the Ozolith just moves all the counters to the new creature. The problem is this card, one, I only have a foil copy.
Okay.
I only ever opened a foil copy, but a non-foil copy of this from just like the base set, nothing fancy, is $22.81. And I was like, I personally couldn't justify that. I was like, mine's in like perfect condition. It's been double sleeved since the second I opened it. So, but if I wanted to build an Exava that was not budget, the Ozolith would be in there, and if it had sleeves.
Well, if you're listening and you have a damaged version of the Ozolith,
yes,
and you go on our website and look at the address for our PO box and you send it to that PO box, I will take the return address on that and I will send you a draft pack of Commander Legends. How about that?
Wow.
I mean, a damaged Ozolith might be worth still more than a pack of Commander Legends, but that's what I'm willing to offer. If you're willing to do that, go over on our website.
It's really not like a good. You should probably do more than one pack. I don't think one.
We'll see how damaged the Ozolith is.
Okay.
We'll negotiate. Email us.
It's ripped in half. It's taped back together. It is. Well, everybody, that's going to be it for our episode this week. Let us know if you're going to go sleeveless, because if you do, you won't get a farmer's tan when you cut the grass. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at Andy Flory.
And you can find me on Twitter at Wormcoil Engine. Want to give a big shout out and a thank you to Ryan Nichols. He is our producer and our editor. He does all of our editing for our episodes. So thank you so much to you. Chris Wolf handles all of our graphic design and pictures and everything that we throw up on our YouTube channel and what you see on our Twitch page. So big props to Chris. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And to all of you listeners out there, to all of you that emailed us last week, thank you so much. To all of you listeners out there, thank you for listening, and we will catch you next week.